Hello, everyone. Today is July 21st, 2022. I'm here today with Kevin Lee. Kevin is the U.S Army First Lieutenant.
hmm
Was that correct, Kevin?
Yeah, that's correct. Hey, for everyone on this podcast, my name is Kevin Lee, First Lieutenant, U.S Army, and currently stationed in not stationed but deployed in Korea. And right now, for my unit, I am a maintenance officer for my unit. So I oversee the maintenance, pretty much like the command maintenance, overall scheduling, make sure to ensure that all of our equipments are good to go at any moment's notice. We are very close to the DMZ, so the readiness is, at is very emphasized here. So it's an important job. It's a job that I'm not used to. I come from operation backgrounds, such as I was a tank platoon leader, so I was overseeing managing tanks, and then I got into the logistics as a battalion logistics officer. And then uh, I was responsible for deployment uh, into the Indo-PACOM area, which the Republic of Korea is a part of. And then now I'm serving in the maintenance role until I get further orders to go somewhere else. But that is a very quick introduction of myself.
Wow. What have you found what's different between operations and maintenance?
So, like, I guess in the army, you can think about the operation as like frontline, and pretty much like the best way to put it is like the operation is like the quarterback, like you know, um, the running back and the wide receivers, and you can think about the logistics, like the sustainment, as like the element that is there to support the operation. So you can think about like the linemen and other special teams that kind of set the conditions for the operational units to succeed. So, like my job is right now, I'm managing over 29 tanks, 18 Bradley fighting vehicles, three also Bradley fighting vehicles that are Fester vehicles, and about 30 tracks in the M113 variants, and a lot of wheeled vehicles. And me and my team, which is comprised of four people, all senior officers. We all just kind of manage the overall readiness of our the vehicles in our fleet, and we conduct services just to make sure that we maintain a certain number of operational readiness, so that if something is about to happen, we can not be like Russia, per se. Good example of like the Russia, how they were not ready for anything. We maintain pretty good readiness. What I can't really tell you what it is, but we are ready for anything if something is about to happen in Korean theater of operations.
What is a Fester vehicle?
So Fester vehicle is pretty much you can think of it as like the eyes and ears and brain, almost the brain of artillery unit. So every maneuver is like the unit that is very close in contact with the enemy gets attached festers, which is fire support. Forgot the acronyms, but they are pretty much fire supporting elements. So they are able to, so they're embedded with the operational unit. And when they see the enemies, they can call in for fires, whether it may be, the tubed, like from our organic unit, Paladins, rocket artillery, which is added capabilities that we have in Korea, or even airstrikes or from naval vessels. They're able to, accurately and timely call in for fires to help us, like achieve like the effects of precision fires that are outside of our engagement area. So like our tanks can engage targets up to 4 kilometers optimistically, but if we see enemies that are out 10 kilometers, then that's when we utilize our fisters. They see the enemy with their optics, and then they send the information back, and the FDC Fire Direction Center will determine if they can hit them with the tube, rocket, or if they would have to resort to different assets like such as Air Force or even the Navy. But
Wow.
usually the rocket artillery does the job very well. Like the Himars that you see in Ukraine, we have very similar. It's MLRS, so it's a tracked vehicle that is much bigger than Himars, but we have those units always on standby to help us with any additional fire missions.
What's a HIMAR?
So HIMARS is high mobility, I think artillery system. So it's if you are like very interested in Ukraine and Russian conflict, U.S. gave Ukraine about 4 systems, I believe, at the time of this recording. So it's pretty much a rocket artillery on wheels that is very like high mobility. So they call it shoot and scoot. So they would go to a point and they will shoot, and then before the enemy's radar can detect the origin of the fires and do the counter fire missions, they will not be there. So they just, so they'll be elsewhere, setting up firing points. So for Russians, it's been hitting them really hard because HIMARS can shoot and scoot in less than 2 minutes, whereas like the Russian rocket artillery takes much longer, and their fire is not as precise as ours.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's got to use some pretty complicated software.
Oh yeah, and I'm pretty sure it has GPS, INS, and something that is way above my level for coordinating those fires. But it's always very cool to see rockets fire. I think always feel like a kid when I see rockets or tank rounds go off with big noises, and what boys are just kind of used to seeing.
Wow. So you've seen a lot of explosions.
Oh yeah, fair share. If a unit is having any kind of the range, we call it range or gunnery, then lot of times the other adjacent units, people from adjacent units, or supporting units are invited, to come out and see, just so that we know the capabilities. The range here is also not very far, so we call it RIFLIC, Rodriguez Live Fire Complex. I think it's about 30 minutes bus ride, but it's a really big range, and they have a lot of fire, whether it's rocket, tanks, like even aviation assets. So it's always good to go, and see how the other units do their gunneries, and also it's important to understand the capabilities that are supporting you, because I still do believe that the ground maneuver elements are pretty much like the quarterback of the entire operations, and a lot of the other assets are there to support you. And it's good to know that what the capabilities of the supporting assets are.
What do you mean the ground assets are the maneuvers or the quarterback?
So pretty much we in the Army, we call it warfighting functions. So there are 6 warfighting functions. There's command and control, fires, protection, maneuver, movement and maneuver. I'm supposed to know all this. Intelligence. But pretty much like within the Army unit, within the whole Army, there are units that are nested within that warfighting functions. And like my unit and the higher unit, our job is to maneuver and maneuver with and maneuver with close and destroy the enemy. So pretty much if the war is going on, everything centered is the unit that is going in to close and destroy the enemy. And other units such as intelligence unit, supply unit, military police, engineers, even rocket units, they're all there to support that maneuver unit from achieving their goals, which is to destroy the enemy and plant the flag in their territory.
That makes sense.
hmm I guess
Wow.
like the football, like the quarterback, throws a ball, and all the other people in the offensive team is there to like help the quarterback, help the ball get to the other side of the line. I mean, to the end zone. So it's always the fun analogies to compare it to sports. Then people understand it better.
Yes, people do. People understand, when you're saying the
hmm
supporting casts are linemen, because linemen
Yeah.
don't do much. They just block for the quarterback.
hmm
Wow. What have you learned since you've gone into maintenance?
So maintenance is completely a different world. Usually, my seat will be filled up by a captain, which is a rank higher, um, and someone with more like the maintenance related backgrounds. Me just coming off from like the operational side and a little bit of like the deployment side. I had to learn a lot about the softwares that we use. SAP enabled, we call it G-Army, Ground Combat Support System, Army. That is pretty much like a program that controls every aspect about maintenance or just any like sustainment about the Army. So we can pull up the unit's readiness report, like we can do scheduled services and all that. And while it is a really good software, it's pretty complicated to use. So for me, I had to attend a course that's offered here in Peninsula to learn how to really use it. I had to take some module courses and just kind of have to like shift the emphasis as well. I can't think like a tactician anymore. I can't think like the maneuver guy who wants to like you know get in the tank and destroy the enemy. But now I have to think about, okay, I'm like a bigger unit's asset, and my job is to enable other people's maintenance so that they can go and do bad things to bad people. And I'm just really back here just supporting others to do their job. So like we had a lot of like joint training with the Koreans, which I really wanted to participate because I speak Korean fluently, and they wanted to bring me out, but like the higher leaderships are like, well, you serve bigger role in the rear, making sure that all the stuff is getting done on time, so that we're not delinquent on anything, or like everything is the maintenance program is going, uh, while everyone else is out in the field. So I'm considered as a staff officer who advises the commander on like how to do maintenance, how to conduct maintenance. But it's also really weird because under me there are three. So there is so my role is battalion maintenance officer. Underneath me I have battalion maintenance tech, who is usually chief foreign officer, with 20 years of Army experience in logistics maintenance alone, who's my principal advisor. I also have maintenance control officer, who is logistics officer, with logistics background, and also MCS, maintenance control sergeant, who is also a senior non-commissioned officer, whose background is mechanic. So those three guys are kind of like the whiz of, they know everything about maintenance, but my job is to attend meetings and to be in more formal setting for them so that they can emphasize on the maintenance. So I am not an expert in maintenance. I've been in the seat for, gosh, about 2 months, and this is very, very complicated area. I mean, they have whole jobs about maintenance, so it's impossible to be very good at it in 2 months. But I know enough to function, and with the help from my team, we are doing really well. We're probably best within the brigade, the higher unit. Our numbers are pretty good, pretty solid, but we're always improving the process, trying to be as proactive in instead of being reactive to anything.
Being proactive is valuable.
Yeah, especially like in the maintenance, because if you're delinquent, then you get calls from someone who's very not happy, and then it just rolls down the hill until it hits us, and then they're not happy about it.
Yes. Maintenance is very difficult.
Yeah,
It's operations is, pretty straightforward if maintenance is doing their job.
yeah, definitely.
But if maintenance isn't doing their jobs, then operations becomes maintenance.
Pretty much, it really is, and it's always like us as maintainers. Not, I mean, it makes me sick, saying I'm a maintainer now, but us as maintainers, the operators also have to be involved in it, just because we care about all the equipments, but at the end of the day, they're not our equipment. It's the operator's equipment. And as much as I care, if people are not willing to care about it, if the owners don't care about it, then why should I care about it more than you do? And that's when the ball kind of rolls down the hill. And that's where I have to get the big commander involved and say, hey, sir, like these guys, they're not really doing what they're supposed to do. We tried to help them as much as they can. We've given them all the resources, the man-hour allocations, all the stuff that they ordered that they need fixing, but it's still not being done. Then that's when the big commander goes and kind of enforces his command discipline on them, which is never want to get there. And a lot of the company executive officers that I work with are very good. So company executive officers are pretty much second in command of the companies, and they're also responsible for all the logistics and sustainments within that unit, the smaller subunit. So I'm very lucky to have very good solid team, and they make my job easier.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's even if the operators don't care, if the system owners don't care, then they're the ones that have eyes on the system for 95% of the time plus.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe more than 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's like people say, I heard this diet person say it's more important what you eat between New Year's and Christmas than it is between Christmas and New Year's.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, if these operators aren't, I've seen systems where operators take care of it, and by the time you get back there, then as a maintainer, you can actually work with that system.
Oh yeah.
But if you go back to a system and the operator just has been negligent, hasn't been doing the maintenance protocols, hasn't been using it at all, just delinquent on it, then you as a maintainer, you can't really do much. It's this fell apart, and you have to report it, because at the end of the day, it snowballs back to you if you don't.
Oh yeah, and funny that you mentioned it, because if we don't do our job and something happens, then usually the fingers get pointed towards maintainers, or oh, you didn't have the good system, or you didn't have the way to control the operators. So it's so you definitely have to be doing your job, or else everyone else is they're gonna be really quick to throw you under the bus. And you'd go from probably one of the most guy by the big boss to the guy who is not in good terms with your boss. So definitely don't want that.
No, you don't want that. And it's you got to be on top of it, like you said, proactive and not reactive.
Oh yeah.
What fun things have you done since you've gone to Korea?
So it's really nice. In Korea, we we work hard, but I like to say we play hard too. So on the weekends, the COVID is not. We still have to wear masks and indoors out in public places, and right now they're seeing some surges as well. So I don't know how it's gonna be in the future, but on the weekends they're pretty generous. We just sign out, from our unit, and then we can go, go explore. And of course, me, speak Korean, so in everything, the public transit is very well made in Korea. So from here, which we're in the city of Dongducheon, which is about 15-20 miles from the DMZ. So we're pretty up there, but we can
Wow.
take subway like right outside of our gate, and within about 40 minutes we are in Seoul. And once you're in Seoul, then you can take bullet trains to go any major cities in Korea. So the traveling it does take time, and I wish I had a car. It just make my life so much easier. But the road here is much narrower than back in the States, and there are still a lot of cars. So the rush hour is just definitely daunting. But taking the subway, you're not really affected much by the rush hours, other than like maybe not being able to find seats on the train. But it's really good. I definitely enjoy the weekend. The reason why I'm smiling is it's Friday. So it's Friday here, and we're about past lunch. So we are kind of like in the process of winding down for the weekend. I don't really have a grand plan this weekend. A couple of my coworkers and I, we have kind of like a unit ball, which is kind of like a mess, I guess, if I have to compare it. And we're gonna have it at a local brewery down here. So we're gonna go check out the brewery later, and then tomorrow, depending on the weather, I might go on a bike ride. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, the weekends are great for the most part. They're really good at kind of leaving you alone on the weekend, and I've been very fortunate. I just feel bad, but for like a lot of my buddies, I just never ask where I'm at on the weekend. I just go off post and then just disappear into the population.
That's very fun.
Mm-hmm. It's great. It's like, imagine like you're here, like you're back in your hometown. So like it's almost like being back in like Orange County, but you're also working here. I don't know, like I never really had. I mean, I guess I have, but in like it's like all your coworkers and all your friends are all in your hometown, and we just work here. It's an awesome feeling. Yeah, and Korea has very, very lot of like amazing places to discover too. And there's a lot of very capitalistic country, like a lot of shopping malls, a lot of big shopping malls, a lot of stores that you don't see in the States. And it's just such an easy country to be a consumer. I originally wanted to save as much as I can when because I was in the deployment mindset. I was like, oh, I'm gonna come back to the States with a couple of thousands of dollars, but it's not going too well. Yeah, that's one thing not going too well. This deployment is there's so many things to do and so many like opportunities, and I get sidetracked very easily on the weekend.
Yeah. Yes. That's not bad though. I mean, you want to enjoy yourself. You're young in Korea.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And you
Yeah.
speak Korean.
Oh yeah. I don't know if you're hearing any noises in the background, but like next to me is a mechanic's office, and they're very, very kind of loud sometimes, and they just play
Wow.
music. Yeah, so if you hear that, I apologize. I can't really tell them to shut up because it's their lunchtime.
No, it's okay. It is yeah, I don't hear it.
Okay, that's good. That's good because they're playing some like Bad Bunnies down the hallway, and
Wow.
yeah,
They're playing Bad Bunny. These are Americans, right?
Yeah, they're all Americans.
Wow. Bad Bunny's big in Korea.
I know. I was very surprised because I was at a chicken and beer festival, which is very big in Korea, and they were playing Bad Bunny and like Daddy Yankee and Faruko. I was like, what is going on? Like, it's Spanish music that, like, I'm pretty sure only like very, very small percent of people in Korea understand. And it was really funny because there are a lot of foreigners in Korea now, a lot different than when I grew up in Korea. And you see like all the foreigners just like hitting the stage and dancing, and all the Koreans are just like, because they don't know what they're saying. But
Wow.
yeah, it was quite a scene. It was
That's
very fun.
that is very fun. Do
Mhm.
do a lot of Koreans know English?
A lot of them do. I mean, it is their, if they do pick up second language, of course it's English. And English is, it's like an international language, so they may not be very good at it, but you can definitely ask them like directions or have very basic conversations, and they will know. And there's a lot of expats here too, so you'd be surprised. Like sometimes you would ask somebody a question that you expect a very mediocre like English, and then they speak very fluently because either they kind of grew up in the States and now they're living in Korea, or their expats are like Americans that are living in Korea.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting place. And there is
Interesting.
in Seoul there's a foreigner district, they call it Itaewon, and that place really reminds me of, just like, in a way, kind of reminded me of New Orleans, like how diverse it is. And sometimes, like out at night, there are more foreigners than Koreans, so it's very fun.
In that district?
In that district, not all over Korea, but just that district. That is, the quote unquote party district, with all the expats and foreigners. So, what's up, Sarberta? How are you? Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, yeah. So it's a fun place. A
Okay.
lot of things to do in Seoul.
Very nice. Wow. What what's your favorite food in Korea?
Oh, that's a hard question, man. That is like the most difficult question you asked me today, because there's a lot and it changes like depending on the days. Like some days I do crave pineapple with pizza, a pizza with pineapple. I'm sorry. Sometimes I like traditional Korean food. Some days I like sushi. So I don't know. I don't have a clear answer for you, man. I just, as long as I can eat it and not be sick, that works for me.
What's traditional Korean food?
So, like, like a lot of people know kimchi, but there's also a lot of Korean barbecues here. And depending on the region of Korea, there are different foods. Obviously, it's a very small country, but if you go towards like the southwest of Korea, that's a very like fertile farmland. So they have a lot of like very flavorful food. Whereas if you go to like southeast, that's industrious region. So they have a lot of, they call it blend. The food is very blend. And then to like the east side of Korea, it's the mountainous. So they, the food is just very different all over the place. But there's,
Got it.
yeah, but Korean food is, there's lots and lots of them. Something from like the squid that is like still like murking on your plate, to like Korean barbecue, to, gosh, like eels. There's a lot of food. So whenever we go out, or you go anywhere, it's really hard to choose like where you want to go eat, because there's places just everywhere. And it's not just the Korean food. They have a lot of like the Western food, a lot of like foods from different places. I went to this Turkish dessert cafe that's very popular in Korea now, and yeah, it was really good. very different. And it's such a condensed area too. And there's a lot of different people. So, like you walk this one street and you'll see like Japanese food, you'll see like Chinese food, Korean food, like Turkish food, and like it's so easy to like just get lost in. But you'll always have I would say for like 80 to 90%, the restaurants that you just randomly walk into will definitely be a hit, not a miss, because a lot of these places to survive COVID, you have to be good. If you're
Yes.
a bad restaurant, then COVID would have, wiped you out. So,
In Korea too?
oh yeah, definitely.
Wow. Were
If
there a lot of
anything,
what?
if
If
anything,
anything?
like there was a huge, just like in the States where we only had to eat takeouts, it was kind of like that, but their hours are very limited too. So at one point, they had to close after 9 p.m., which, like for restaurants, it's not a big deal, but for like bars and those places, like they were absolutely sucking because that's when most of the traffics come in is after 9 p.m. Yeah, so they could only do like takeaway drinks, but open containers not a thing in Korea. So they're just like, how do we balance this? How do we like, help the business, but also maintain the quarantine law? So it's an interesting place, but I think that is long gone. Because when I got here in February, March, that's when they were opening up a little bit. And then the new president came in May, and that's when everything just kind of like opened.
Wow. A
Mhm.
new president came in
Yeah.
and then everything opened?
Yeah. So, like without being like political, I would say the old president was like the Democrat, and then the new president was, the Republican one. And he wanted more, he didn't want to kind of like hold down the economy, freeze the economy because of COVID. And, I guess he determined that, they can take prudent risk reviving the economy because if we still go by the quarantine rules, then more people are just going to lose money. And yeah, it's probably safer for public health, but, at what risk do we like just freeze the economy? We can't just, do that for 2 years and then expect once the COVID is over, then there's going to be like no businesses because
Yes.
everyone went out of business. You still
And
have
all
to,
the
yeah, you still have to
go.
like pay the landlord, and you still have to do all this thing, abide by the government standard, but you don't have any like, you don't have as much revenues generated, so it just doesn't make sense.
Is inflation hitting Korea?
It is. So if you look at the U.S. dollars to Korean won, so that is their currency rate. I think when we first came, it was about 11, like mid 1100. So $1 is about 1100 won, 1100 or 1150, like. But now,
11.5?
yeah, so 1150, like one was about $1, but now a dollar is 1300 won. So
Wow.
I know, so it's good for me because I get paid in dollars, and my paycheck can go much longer here in Korea. So
That's over 10% longer.
that is, so like whenever I buy things, and that kind of also like contributes to me not being able to save as much as I would like to, because like when we go to the mall and when I have my like Chase like debit card or credit card, I have option to pay in US dollar, which or like in Korean won. And since the currency is so good, you know, you just don't feel as bad, it's like. But I know for a lot of people with families in Korea and like in the States, it's kind of hard because, sometimes like you have families that make money in Korea and then they send it to the States. And with the currency, like with the exchange rate being so high, they're like, oh my gosh, now I have to send like this much more, just for, because of the currency for it to be like same amount in dollars, or they would have to like reduce their spendings.
Yes, that's wow. The U.S. dollar relative to the other currencies in the world has done pretty well in
Yeah.
the last 2 years.
Yeah, I
I
mean
would say it's done very
that's
well.
good. Hmm. I mean, I've heard like my friends in Europe are saying the euro is about as same as the dollars now. So I think it used to be like
A
one
lot
point
more.
two dollar was like €1, something like that. But now it's pretty much 1-to-1 exchange. So now they can party it up in Europe too, just like I'm partying up here in South Korea.
It's capital. I think capitalism has a big part to play. I
Yeah.
think it's a good thing.
Hmm.
Capitalism. It's got its issues.
Hmm.
Selective forms of capitalism where some people get
Hmm.
it, some people don't, and some people
Yeah.
are getting socialist benefits and some people aren't.
Hmm.
That's not capitalism.
Yeah.
But I mean, Korea is one of the richest countries in the world still. The
Hmm.
United States is, and
Hmm.
it, like, even for our military, like our military kind of runs, not, I would say, not completely, but really considering finances, and that helps
Oh yeah,
optimize.
definitely. With the defense budget going over like $700 billion, without the backing of the strong economy, that's not possible. Like what we spend in the military, it's funny because Korea's entire GDP is kind of equivalent to like what we spend in the military. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's we do spend a lot, but I think many would agree that in times like this, where we're seeing global conflicts and potential global conflicts, it is very much necessary that we do keep presence around the world.
Yes, optimizing cost, optimizing price, and making things cheaper is good,
Mhm.
is an important thing. But yes, it's not, a lot of people don't really take into consideration that there is value returned by
Yeah.
having a strong defense.
Hmm. And
Like,
this is, we may be slightly biased. You work in the defense sector. I work for DoD. So, but what we said is completely true. It does,
yes,
it's for the interest of our country that we have strong defense.
yes. Any last words you'd like to leave our audience, Kevin?
I mean, I just want to say, I mean, thank you again. I know, like, you've been very patient with scheduling. I think I'm about 16 hours ahead of you, so you're about to wind down and sleep. Still a work day for me, so it's very hard to schedule. Thank you so much for being very flexible. I'm really glad we were able to get this done today. And I see you traveling a lot, man. I'm very jealous. One day
Yeah,
I'll like. It's so funny because I have not been to Mexico, and we're both from SoCal, and like I'm still thinking like one day I'm gonna have to at least go to like just somewhere in Mexico. Like, it doesn't have to be Cancun, or it could be Tijuana, or like, and it's really funny, you know, also because El Paso is very close to Juarez, but we're
yes.
not allowed to go to Juarez because it is, considered to be dangerous. I mean, that's where the movie Sicario is really, based out of. But like I just like to travel more now that COVID is kind of dwindling down, and hopefully, once I come back to the States, I'll have more opportunities to travel. And we gotta go. gotta go do some things, man. I know I expect nothing but the big elk on your Instagram post pretty soon.
Yes.
Yes, it is because I never done elk hunting, man. And elks are
It's,
huge. Oh my god, they're like bigger than like big trucks.
yes, they're huge.
Like you
Small
see it on
horses.
yeah, you see it on pictures and you don't grasp it until you see one in real life. You're like, oh my god, that is like a brick wall just walking around. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yes, a big
And,
brown wall walking around.
yeah, you just have to place the shot right so you take it out instantly.
Take it out instantly.
Yeah,
Yes. We're gonna have to do some hunting trips and some Mexico trips when you get back.
I'm 100% down, man. I'm 100% down.
All right. My guest today has been Kevin Lee. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Kevin.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
All right. See ya.